Hi, my name is Tammy Mott, and this is my vocational autobiography for CSL 663. My parents were entrepreneurs, and it's the only thing I knew. So in 1975, I began teaching baton lessons, and my classroom was my family garage. I became disenchanted quite quickly with the lack of money associated with teaching. So I quit teaching and began working as a clerk at TGMY, the local department store. And this was in 1976. A year later, in 1977, my mother opened a clothing store. And in my eyes, that was the beginning of my career. So during the next 11 years, I moved to Dallas to learn more about the fashion industry. I obtained associate's degree in applied arts. I got married, and I moved back home with plans of making a career out of our expanding family business. Life is full of changes, and lots of changes cannot be avoided. In 1989, Walmart opened in our town, combined with highways that were expanded, which allowed shoppers to travel to malls much larger than our store and easier and quicker than before. With the onset of these changes, we saw a significant drop in sales, and I became concerned about the viability of small businesses. The following year, in 1990, there were a lot of personal changes in my life. I became a single parent of my 4 young children. I enrolled in university, and I sold my home to use the equity to fund my education. I moved to a town 30 miles away with the goals of obtaining my degree and majoring in accounting. At the time, I did not realize that I had choices regarding my degree options, nor did I take advantage of career assessments. I was merely trying to survive, and I decided that majoring in accounting would make the most sense. After graduation, I worked in my father's business and had odd and end jobs as bookkeepers with different companies. It did not take me long to realize that I did not like accounting, and I was not a numbers person. In 1998, I was offered an opportunity to work as an insurance agent with Farm Bureau Insurance. I passed all requirements for licensing and began working within 4 weeks. I was employed with Farm Bureau for 11 years, where I thrived as a 1099 employee. In 2008, I remarried, and in 2011, my husband and I transferred to Houston. So I retired with Farm Bureau. Upon moving to Houston, we became members of Ashford Community Church, where I worked as a bookkeeper and hospitality chairperson. In 2014, I began working with Farmers Insurance in their commercial division. However, shortly thereafter, my daughter called to inform me they were pregnant with my first grandchild. I knew then it was time to come home. In 2015, after 3.5 years of being in Houston, we moved back to Lafayette, where I began volunteering at church and became involved in trauma recovery ministry. I enrolled in CCU in 2016 and began taking electives, and my practicum experience began in 2018. My future career plans are that retirement is not all it's cracked up to be. My husband and I travel quite often, so traveling is not a priority for us. We don't play golf, we don't play tennis, we do not believe in casinos, and we have had a full life. And we believe it is now time to give back to others. I desire to work with children, especially those who have been in foster care. I want to work with the innocent who have had to bear the consequences of their parents' sins. In practicum, I have requested that I receive the tough cases. I want the experience, and I want to understand how to make a difference in the lives of the innocent. I want to become an LPC. I want to also receive certification in play therapy, sand tray therapy, trauma-focused CBT, and TBRI, which I will detail in a little bit. My entrepreneurial spirit cannot be dimmed, and my dream is to open a Head Start program for children who have experienced trauma. There is one similar to that at St. Luke's Hospital in Kansas City. It's called the Crittenton Children's Center, and their motto is Head Start Trauma Smart. In high school, the assessment tools that I received were similar to the trait and factor assessment, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was, although I do not have confirmation. I vaguely remember being told that I would be a great airline stewardess or a news reporter, but I was not interested. The discussion with my guidance counselor was very brief and not very impactful. I'm sure it's because of my lack of interest. I took the Myers-Briggs personality test at CCU, and I've also taken the Cooter career assessment during this class. Those are the only assessments I have taken in my lifetime. Cultural backgrounds, as I indicated, I inherited a strong entrepreneurial spirit from my parents. They were a success story, considering that their parents were extremely poor. I also inherited a strong work ethic, which proves to be a vital part of any success story. But I had to adapt to changing times, as the environment my parents grew up in was not the same environment which I was facing. But in a sense, there were similarities in the midst of the differences. They headed into unknown territory, and like them, I had to change the direction of my career several times. They moved away from family and friends, and like them, I had to move away from all things familiar to me. And like them, I never stopped dreaming of things to come. They were not educated, and my father lacked a high school diploma, but I had to overcome the fear of attending college and obtaining my degree, despite being a single mother of 4 children. Due to my personal experiences, I've had to adapt and make changes. And according to family tradition, excuses were not tolerated. C.S. Lewis says we are a soul living in a body. And that's what I see too. I love person-centered therapy. I believe that the focus should be on building trust between the counselor and the client. You see, I see through an attachment lens, and I integrate theories based on my clients' unmet needs. I am currently undergoing training for play therapy and sand tray therapy. And I also have goals of being a certified sand tray therapist, play therapist, as well as trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapist. And there's a new certification that's floating around the internet, and it's trauma-based relational intervention. It is used a lot in fostering, counseling foster children, and is used in Department of Child and Family Services. I also like CBT minus the trauma focus, especially when counseling one who is bound by their negative thoughts. How has my personal history influenced my preferences? We live in a fallen world, and the best way to describe my story is a story of redemption, which began with the plans of the enemy. As John Eldredge wrote so well in his book, Waking the Dead, he says the enemy desires to make us so busy that we ignore our heart. He desires to wound us so deeply that we don't want a heart. He desires to twist our theology so we despise our heart. He tries to take away our courage and destroy our creativity. He desires to make intimacy with God impossible. And my answer to that is God restores what has been stolen. As promised in Joel 23 through 25, the crickets and locusts, God has restored what the crickets and locusts have taken away. My plans for helping clients assess and set their future goals. I would love to administer the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Personality Inventory tests to all of my clients, provided those that are, 17 years old and older. When it comes to high school students and some college students, it's almost as if counseling also provides a little concierge service. Yesterday, I called the community college and found out what services are available for one of my clients. We found out how long the test will take, what building, where to park, what room to go to, who to ask for, how long the tests will take. I also discussed with the client the significance of these tests and how important reliability and validity are when it comes to career assessment tests. It is important that I stress that because I just don't want them to have as long of a journey, and starting over these days is not the easiest thing. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for listening, Tammy.